Well, let's talk about Bitcoin holder strategy. Should be getting nervous about the price of Bitcoin. The public company strategy, and again, it's a public company, used to be Microstrategy, trades under the symbol MSTR. Should be getting nervous because it has about 650,000 Bitcoins that are worth around, depending on the day, because it goes up and down a lot, Bitcoin does, about $56 billion. The problem is the company has about $8 billion of convertible bonds outstanding that require interest payments, and also about $7.6 billion of perpetual preferred stock that also pays dividends.
The problem here is the cost to pay the interest and these dividends is about $780 million annually. And since all the company's assets are essentially in Bitcoin, they don't receive any interest or profits from that asset. And I don't really think they have any other business lines. I know they were a different type of business before the Bitcoin thing, but I think they were a tiny, tiny business. So I don't think they really have any profits outside of that. The CEO, Michael Slayer, is saying if they have to, they will sell Bitcoin to raise the cash to pay the dividends and interest payments. The convertible bonds could also be problematic down the road, as they are due in about 4.4 years on average and come with a combined interest rate of 0.421%. I was going to say, that is an extremely low interest rate. And this is, again, kind of part of the hype. They're able to get such a low interest rate out of the hopes that people would get a favorable exercise price. And I'd be very curious what the conversion price is on those convertible bonds.
And I think that is public information. I have to dig for it, but I'm pretty sure that has to be there. And the problem is, obviously, if everybody converts, you've got all these problems with dilutions, and then if they sell,
I think that's the least of their problems. I think they should hope and pray that the people convert. And I say that because if they don't, they want their money back. They don't have the money.
Well, and I guess no matter what you do, it's a problem, because if they convert, they're going to dilute the shares, and then they sell. If they don't convert, then they're going to want their money back. I mean, either way, it's a no-win situation. And this was great when it started, because like, oh, look, we're buying all this Bitcoin. And the thing that's always irritated me about strategy, they're not doing anything. Anybody can go in and just buy Bitcoin, and anybody can just go in and float debt or sell stock. They're not creating anything of use to anybody. It's just very frustrating. And because of this, the stock, well, itself has been pulverized, and its market cap has been as low as $49 billion. And that was a high back in July of $128 billion. I mean, that's almost a third of the value. Now, MSCI has proposed cutting digital asset treasury companies from its indexes if crypto tokens make up a major part of their assets. And they don't say what a major part is, but I know that, well, again, we've talked about Bitcoin is probably like 90% of their assets. I mean, it has to be. This decision will come in a little over a month on January 15th. And if this happens, Strategy could see $2.8 billion in passive outflows of people saying, well, not in the index, so we got to sell it now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even like, I want to sell it. You have to sell it because the indexes would sell it. The other thing, too, JP Morgan does estimate that about $9 billion of the company's market cap is tied to passive and index ETFs and mutual funds. This could then put even more pressure on the stock if more indexes also decide to remove these treasury companies. So you talk about MSCI, but if there are other indexes that kind of follow their lead, that's where, again, $9 billion could be at risk.
Yeah, and MSCI used to be Morgan Stanley, I forget what the C stood for, indexes. And for some reason, they dropped that name. It's just now MSCI, but they do these indexes, many different indexes. So it's very important. It's a major index they're talking about. But you won't believe, and another thing about this company, you won't believe how the company does their profit and loss statement, their P&L. When the price of Bitcoin rises, hey, yes, everything's great. The company can book a paper profit, even if it did not sell any Bitcoin. Now, on the other side, the problem they're going to have is that if Bitcoin goes down in value, like it has for the past, month or two, they must book the losses as well. So guess what's going to be the next quarter look like come December 31st if Bitcoin doesn't go up dramatically, which I don't see why that would happen.
Yeah, we'd see some nice negatives there. One has to love the estimates, though, for the earnings of Strategy for 2025. Strategy is expected to report a loss of $5.5 billion or a profit of $6.3 billion or something in between. Now, that is just some great guidance, I got to say. And I don't know where Bitcoin is going today, tomorrow, or anytime in the future, but I would just be sweating bullets here if I held Bitcoin or strategy in my clients' portfolios or even my own portfolio. I would never buy anything like
No,
this.
and we've talked about that for years, and it makes no sense, and we don't know where the top or the bottom is for it, but fundamentally it makes no sense, and this could be the end of it because, and not the end of it, it will always be around in some form, but if strategy, their stock continues to drop, and they have to start liquidating their Bitcoin, that's going to put more pressure on the downside for Bitcoin. And then other companies, we've seen a little bit of it, other companies that have it in their treasury, they've had to sell because they're underwater. And I believe that strategy is very close to break even. And the CEO, Michael Slayer, has said that, yeah, we would start selling if we start losing money on it.
Well, and I did find some notes here. It looks like a couple different convertibles did pop up, and it looks like one set of convertibles, their conversion price is $433.43, and the other conversion price is $672 per share. Right now, and this is 2029 and 2030 is when those notes come due. So right now, Strategy's at $178.99. The way that convertible bond works is if I'm going to use the $433 example here, let's say Strategy's at 500. Well, yeah, absolutely, you're going to want to do the conversion because then you make a nice profit off that.
Right.
But if Strategy's still at $200 a share, let's say, and the conversion price is 433, well, what the bondholders would do is say, give me my cash back.
Yeah.
And the problem here is this is where you said, well, the dilution's a problem. I said, I think that's the best case scenario for them is dilution, because if they have to now come up with cash to pay those bonds and they were way off on the conversion price, they're not going to be able to issue more convertible bonds at a favorable rate. They're going to have to sell Bitcoin to pay off that debt. And I think that creates a cascade effect because now they have to sell Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes lower. What is this company tied to? Bitcoin.
So and then it goes lower.
It's just not a, I think, viable company, obviously, and I think it's a house of cards.
And you said the conversion price, I think one was 400, was the other 700?
433 and 672.
I think it's been as high as 400, I believe, but I don't think it's ever been as high as 600.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't have a chart pulled up on me.
And this is, again, just quick Google research, so I didn't have time to actually go into the details, so let's hope Google's not feeding me some nonsense here on the conversion.
No, I pretty much trust that's a pretty reliable source, but it still does cause a problem for strategy and Bitcoin. And again, and this could all unfold next year. We talked about January 15th. If they say, no, we're going to kick you out of the index, that could start the problem. And people might, and they can actually sell, well, they can't redeem them, but they could sell the converts on the open market as well. But that wouldn't hurt because it's 4.4 years.
I think there's just so many problems with this. And this is why, again, having an asset that does not produce cash flow, to me, is useless.
Yeah.
I want assets to produce cash flow. Bitcoin, no cash flow.
And we'll be talking about later on the lumber company Weyerhaeuser, which is an asset company, but we'll talk about the differences of that. So